In April 1998, a 17-year-old named Donna Keogh walked into a house in Middlesbrough and was never seen again. For more than a quarter of a century, the case has haunted her family, and the answers have evaded detectives. This is Donna's story, and why the search for answers continues. Welcome to Vanished Voices UK, your new favourite spot for curious missing persons cases, true crime stories, and in-depth investigations. The disappearance of Donna Marie Keogh, a 17-year-old, and a quarter century of silence. This video follows the case of Donna Marie Keogh, a 17-year-old from Middlesbrough who went missing in 1998. She was last seen visiting a house on Bow Street on the 19th of April and was reported missing the following month. Cleveland police now treat Donna's disappearance as a suspected murder and launched Operation Resolute to reinvestigate the case. Targeted searches, including an excavation near Saltersgill in 2018, have been carried out, and Donna's family and police continue to appeal for any information, no matter how small it may be. Donna Marie Keogh was born in Middlesbrough on the 29th of November 1980 and was the middle child of three to parents Brian and Shirley. Her family say she was popular and sociable. She spent a lot of time with cousins and friends in the town, and she loved her hair, makeup and fashion. Donna attended local schools in Middlesbrough and at age 16 worked at a care home for older people, a job her family say reflected her warmth around others. At the time she went missing, she was living in a town centre flat in King House, Central Mews, with a cousin. That flat and the nearby streets were where she spent much of her time. Her parents describe her as a young woman with plans and promise, bubbly and ambitious according to local reporting, and the abrupt end of her contact with her family in mid-April 1998 is what prompted growing alarm. Here is the timeline of what we know up to the point that Donna was reported missing. Donna's contact with family and friends stopped abruptly in mid-April 1998. The sudden silence is what first worried those closest to her. The last confirmed time that she was seen in public was on the 19th of April 1998. On that day, Donna went into a house in the Bow Street, Hartington Road area of Middlesbrough with a friend. The friend left briefly to buy cigarettes and did not see Donna again. In the weeks that followed, Donna did not return to the flat where she was staying in the town centre, and she failed to make contact with her parents or attend expected appointments, all of which increased the family's concern. Because of that unexplained loss of contact, Donna's family reported her missing in May 1998. After Donna's family reported her missing, Cleveland police opened a missing from home inquiry on the 30th of May 1998. That inquiry developed into a homicide investigation the following year. The first murder inquiry was launched in March 1999, and two men were arrested on suspicion of murder at that time. Over the following years, the family repeatedly pressed for answers, and following their complaints about aspects of the original inquiry, Cleveland police publicly apologised and accepted that there were failings in how parts of the case were handled. An independent review of the original inquiries led the force to reframe the case. On the 17th of October 2016, Cleveland police launched Operation Resolute, a dedicated historic homicide investigation into what happened to Donna. The review identified a series of town centre sightings in mid-April 1998 on Hartington Road, Ask Road and Bow Street that investigators said needed re-examination. In 2018, the force secured Home Office funding for a specialist historic investigations team and launched a fresh programme of forensic work and public appeals. As part of that work, police and a specialist search team began a targeted excavation at a former allotment and waste ground site near Troon Close and Saltersgill Avenue in Middlesbrough on the 18th of June 2018. This search ran for several weeks. During the Troon Close excavation, a fragment of human jawbone was recovered, but forensic tests including DNA and radiocarbon dating confirmed that the fragment was not linked to Donna and dated to the early medieval period. Police closed that search area in July 2018 and said other targeted searches would follow where intelligence pointed them. Since Operation Resolute was created, the force says a dedicated team has been working the inquiry, revisiting historic statements, CCTV and other material, carrying out targeted searches, collecting new witness accounts and following up fresh lines of inquiry. Cleveland police have publicly described the inquiry as active and ongoing, saying thousands of investigative actions have been completed and many statements taken, but that the central questions about Donna's whereabouts and who was responsible remain unanswered. The investigation has also linked into a broader historic crimes review on Teesside. The 2018 Historic Investigations work reviewed Donna's case alongside other unresolved Middlesbrough cases, notably Vicky Glass and Rachel Wilson, and external inspectors later flagged poor quality elements in some of the original investigations, which helped justify the renewed specialist approach. The inquiry continues to appeal for information. Crime Stoppers is supporting the appeal with a reward of up to £10,000 for information that leads to finding Donna's body and a conviction, and Cleveland Police maintain a dedicated advice line for anyone with information. As of the force's latest public update, the case remains a live murder investigation. Donna's parents, Brian and Shirley Keogh, have spent more than 2 decades trying to find out what happened to their daughter. They say the worst part is the not knowing, and they state that they grieve every day for Donna. They've repeatedly appealed to the public for information, marking each anniversary with public pleas and interviews, determined to keep the case in the spotlight until they have answers. In a recent statement, Shirley Keogh said, "We have endured 25 years of heartache no parent should ever have to go through." The family has also criticised aspects of the original police handling of the case. As mentioned previously, Cleveland Police later apologised publicly for investigative failings and the handling of evidence and statements, a point that the Keoghs have referenced in their appeals. The family say some of their complaints have been referred to the Independent Office for Police Conduct. Because of that sustained family pressure and a later review, Cleveland Police launched the historic homicide investigations discussed previously. Brian and Shirley say that they will not stop, and they ask anyone who knows anything to do the right thing for Donna and her family, saying, "We want to know where Donna is." Next, we set out some of the most likely explanations for what happened to Donna Keogh and weigh the evidence for each. The most likely theory is that Donna was killed shortly after the Bow Street sighting and her body concealed locally or disposed of nearby. Cleveland Police and the Find Donna campaign state that Donna was last seen on the 19th of April 1998 in the Bow Street, Hartington Road area, and that her unexplained loss of contact led police to treat her disappearance as a suspected murder. Operation Resolute was opened after an independent review to re-examine those town centre sightings. These official facts make it probable that Donna suffered serious harm soon after she was last seen. So, how does the evidence fit? The abrupt stop in contact with family, the police view that she has come to serious harm, and the focused searches around local allotment sites all point investigators toward the possibility of local disposal or concealment. The fact that the site at Troon Close was excavated indicates police had intelligence or lines of inquiry suggesting a local concealment site, even though the single bone fragment recovered was forensically dated to the early medieval period and was obviously not linked to Donna. The Troon Close work therefore explains why local concealment is plausible, even if that particular search did not recover her remains. A strong theory related to the first is that people present at the Bow Street address were involved. Witness accounts placed Donna at the house on Bow Street that day. Police have said that the review re-examined sightings in Hartington Road, Ask Road and Bow Street, and there is public reporting that arrests were made during the first murder inquiry in March 1999. Donna went to this house with a friend and was never seen again. The friend who was with Donna later told reporters that she left the house to buy cigarettes. In her own words, she said, "I went out and never ended up going back. When I left, Donna was safe. Everything was okay." She added, "It wasn't a house party, there was no seediness, no one was arguing. I didn't know anything had happened until later when I heard about a girl saying something bad happened to Donna." Those quotes come from the friend's interview with regional reporters. Local reporting and the family's public comments have long said that there were a number of men at the address when Donna visited. Regional outlets have reported the family's view that 4 men were present that day, and that the family have always believed the inquiry should have focused on that gathering. Donna Keogh has publicly stated that information about the people with Donna at Bow Street that day was passed to police, and has expressed frustration about the pace and handling of those lines of inquiry. The combination of a last known location, witness statements and historic arrests makes the people who were with Donna that day the most logical immediate set of suspects to consider. So how does the evidence fit? Witness testimony can be unreliable after many years, but the police have explicitly re-examined the statements and are pursuing fresh lines of inquiry about who saw Donna, when, and what each person did afterward. That sequence of rechecks is consistent with the investigators treating those present at Bow Street as central to the inquiry. However, these inquiries have been going on since 2018, so it seems clear that the police did not yet have enough evidence to suggest that the people there that day were responsible for her disappearance, and this investigation may require someone to come forward with new information. If something happened at the Bow Street address, the perpetrators would have had a long time to make sure that there was no evidence left behind, as a murder inquiry was not launched until the following year. The fact that a young girl was with 4 men in a property may not seem overly worrying had she not gone missing, but it seems quite clear that something terrible happened that day, so this information becomes quite troubling. The next theory looks at a possible wider pattern and links to other Teesside cases. Cleveland police set up specialist historic investigations that reviewed Donna's case alongside other Middlesbrough cases. As already mentioned, the case of Vicky Glass, which remains unsolved, and the case of Rachel Wilson. In Rachel Wilson's case, an animal named Keith Hall was convicted of manslaughter in 2021. Inspectors later criticised elements of earlier policing as poor quality, which helped justify the specialist coordinated re-examinations of multiple cases. This has prompted speculation that a single offender or group could be linked to more than one victim. This theory proposes that Donna was attacked by a stranger or by an offender operating in the area. It's consistent with historic unsolved homicide patterns. Although there's no public evidence tying Donna to a known serial offender, and police work to date has concentrated on local sighting rechecks and people known to have been with her that day. From the information available, Keith Hall seems like a possible perpetrator in Donna's case. Rachel Wilson disappeared in 2002, a few years after Donna, and her remains were not found until 2012. Hall's convictions were manslaughter, living off the earnings of prostitution, and perverting the course of justice, so these charges demonstrate that there was at least one local predatory figure who exploited vulnerable young women in and around Middlesbrough at that time, and it is an example of the kind of local exploitative offender police have uncovered during historic reviews. Keith had targeted Rachel Wilson as a teenager around the age of 15 or 16 and had groomed her into a relationship in which he used drugs and abusive behaviour to force her into sex work to create an income for himself. It is reported that Hall may have killed Rachel due to his belief that she wasn't making him enough money. This theory was strengthened by a written note from Rachel found in Hall's wallet, apologising for not making enough money, also found with a lock of her hair. The courts decided that there was not enough evidence to prosecute him for murder, as they believed it would be difficult proving his intention to kill, as it seems that he had been abusive and beaten her in the past, and this may have been another beating that went too far. Could Vicky Glass's murder have also been carried out by the same perpetrator? Vicky Glass was last seen being dropped off by a taxi driver in Middlesbrough at around 4 AM on the 24th of September 2000, 3 days after her 21st birthday. Her body was found 6 weeks later in a stream in Danby, North Yorkshire. A number of arrests were made at the time, but no one has ever been charged. Police officers have stated that Miss Glass had felt pressurised into sex work to fund a heroin addiction, and that they were continuing to investigate this line of inquiry. This seems like a similar situation in which Miss Wilson found herself in with Keith Hall, although, sadly, I am doubtful that he was the only active predator at this time carrying out this despicable behaviour, but it does raise questions as to whether he had murdered other young women before and or after Rachel, which in my opinion seems likely. Turning to organised sexual exploitation and trafficking, national and regional policing operations show that human trafficking and sexual exploitation networks have been active in northern England, and Cleveland Police carried out coordinated raids in January 2018 in Stockton, Middlesbrough and other areas. These led to multiple arrests on suspicion of trafficking and sexual exploitation offences. Operational interventions and ongoing child exploitation teams, for example Cleveland Police's more recent Operation Artemis, show modern policing recognises and targets organised exploitation in Teesside. Again, these are documented police responses. They establish that trafficking and exploitation rings have existed in that region, but they do not provide evidence linking Donna to a trafficking network. So, how does Donna's profile compare to the typical victims of the known offenders and exploitation networks? Donna was 17 when she vanished. Modern policing treats 17-year-olds as vulnerable to exploitation. They can be and are targeted by pimps, groomers or traffickers. County lines criminal exploitation patterns also exploit teenagers. That makes the possibility of local exploitation plausible in a general sense. However, Donna has not been publicly described as a sex worker or drug trafficker or even drug user in official case material. Family accounts portray her as a social town-centred teenager. The absence of any public evidence that she was working in the sex trade slightly weakens, though does not eliminate, the trafficking, sex worker, serial killer hypothesis. In short, the stranger or serial killer/offender theory cannot be excluded, but is currently less supported by the publicly available factual record than the scenario implicating those present at the Bow Street address on the day that she disappeared. Although it seems that we are getting extremely speculative now, could one of those people that she was with that day have had links to the criminal underworld, possibly one that exploits young women either through prostitution or trafficking? The strongest evidence-based theory is that Donna was murdered shortly after her last confirmed sighting, and that those present that day, or someone connected to them, are the most likely source of the truth. Searches such as the 2018 Troon Close excavation show that police are following intelligence, indicating local concealment is a possibility, but the failure so far to recover Donna's remains means the case remains unresolved, and alternative scenarios remain open but less strongly supported publicly at this time. Next, we will look at some of the questions that remain unanswered in this case. The police may know the answers to some of these, but the information has not been made public. Who exactly was in the Bow Street house on the 19th of April 1998, and what did each person do or see? Bow Street is the last confirmed location where Donna was seen. Witness statements from that day are central to the inquiry, but publicly available accounts do not settle who was present or what each person did afterwards. Was Donna seen by anyone after her friend left to buy cigarettes? And if so, when and where? Friends say that someone briefly left. There are no confirmed independently verified public sightings after that moment. Establishing any post-Bow Street sightings would narrow the timeline. What is the minute-by-minute timeline on the 19th of April from arrival to Bow Street to the last possible sighting? Police have revisited the town centre's sightings, but a precise reconciled timeline has not been published. A detailed timeline could identify contradictions or corroboration between accounts. Where are Donna's remains? Donna's body has never been recovered. Targeted searches have been carried out, but nothing forensically linked to Donna has been found. The location or disposal method of any remains remains unknown. What evidence led to the March 1999 arrests, and why did those arrests not lead to any charges? The arrests were recorded during the early murder inquiry, but there has been no public explanation of what evidential gaps prevented charges being brought. Exactly what mistakes or omissions occurred in the original 1998 to 99 inquiries, and have every one of those failings been fully addressed? Independent reviews and inspectors found poor quality elements in historic Middlesbrough investigations. Cleveland police later apologised and launched Operation Resolute, but the detailed catalogue of what went wrong and whether all issues have been corrected has not been fully resolved in public. Have all lines of inquiry, CCTV, forensic exhibits, witness statements been re-examined using modern techniques, and if so, what were the results? Police state the historic material has been reviewed and the inquiry is revisiting CCTV and statements, but the force has not publicly released a full accounting of which exhibits were retested or whether modern DNA CCTV enhancement produced new conclusive leads. Are there any verifiable links between Donna's disappearance and other unresolved Middlesbrough cases? The cases were reviewed together by the Historic Investigations Unit because of geography and timing, but no public confirmation of a proven link has been released, so any common perpetrator remains hypothetical. Did the delay between the last sighting and the formal missing person report affect evidence gathering, and if so, how? Family contact ceased in mid-April and a missing from home inquiry was launched in late May 1998. Family complaints about early handling have been lodged and referred to oversight bodies, but public answers about investigative consequences of that interval remain incomplete. It seems that part of the problem stemmed from the lack of urgency once Donna's family reported her missing. Why did the police take so long to take action, and when exactly was the missing person report made? These are some of the questions that could directly point to the truth about Donna's fate. None of them have been definitively answered in public records to date, which is why police and the family still need any reliable information that you might have. If you know anything at all about what happened to Donna Keogh, even if it's just a rumour that you've heard or something that you feel is insignificant, do the right thing for her family and come forward. Even the smallest detail could break this case wide open. If you have information for the investigation, contact Cleveland Police's dedicated advice line on 01642 302 527. Please leave a voicemail if it isn't answered. Messages are monitored and will be returned. You can also call 101 to give information to Cleveland Police. If it's an immediate emergency, always call 999. If you want to remain anonymous, contact Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111 or submit information online at crimestoppers-uk.org. Crime Stoppers is supporting the Find Donna appeal, and a reward of up to £10,000 is being offered for information that leads to finding Donna's body and a conviction. You can also use the Find Donna website to request a callback or submit information securely via the website www.finddonna.co.uk. The website explicitly asks the public to submit any information and also offers a callback form. If you live outside the UK, contact your local police and ask them to pass on any information to Cleveland Police or use Crime Stoppers online form. When you call, please give as much specific detail as you can remember, such as names, dates, exact locations, vehicle details, photos, CCTV clips, receipts, or any corroborating memory. Cleveland Police have said all information is relevant to us, no matter how irrelevant you might think it is. If you're hesitant because of fear or loyalties to other people, please remember that someone's daughter was taken. Do the right thing for Donna and for Brian and Shirley Keogh. Your call could finally give this family the answers they've waited decades to hear. Donna was only 17. The daughter, a sister, someone's whole world. For Brian and Shirley, every day since has been a question without an answer. If you know anything that could bring them the truth, please speak up. Help end this family's silence and help bring Donna home where she belongs. Thank you for listening. Please share this video and the contact details in the description. One call can change everything. Brian Keogh, Donna's father, passed away in late July this year, aged 69. According to the family, Brian fought for answers until the end, but sadly he never lived to see Donna laid to rest or to see the full truth revealed. Rest in peace, Brian. As always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, every missing person deserves to be found. Like, comment and subscribe to see more new and cold missing persons cases from the UK.